Hello everyone. On this World First Aid Day, we have with us our specialist, Dr. Nitin Jagasia, consultant, head of emergency medical services at Apollo Hospitals, Navi Mumbai. He comes with over 16 years of experience in emergency medicine. Today, we'll be discussing how the first aid should be taken as priority and importance. So, doctor, the first question is, what is first aid? Can you explain?
First aid would be a general term, but what it essentially means is in a scenario where there's an emergency, whether that is an accident, whether it's somebody's fallen over, or if someone is unconscious, what should be the initial few things that anybody who's not trained medically can do to help that patient? For example, if there is a bleeding from somewhere, you would apply pressure. This would be a well known fact. But there are other things like heart attacks, strokes, people going unconscious or having a fit. What a layperson can do to make sure that whatever the medical problem is, that disability or the long term outcome of that problem is minimized.
What is the importance of first aid?
That's pretty much, like I said, it needs to reduce the long term disability. So, for example, if somebody was having a heart attack, there is a possibility that their heart would have stopped and there would be no circulation. So, first aid in those scenarios would be giving chest compressions or pumping in the middle of the chest, which will keep the blood circulation going so that if the heart starts again, or by the time the specialist ambulance paramedics arrive, at least the circulation has been maintained. Similarly, if somebody's had a fracture or a bleeding and they are losing a lot of blood, first aid would then mean it would be lifting that limb or putting pressure on it so that the blood loss is minimized. So again, they don't have any long-term consequences.
So, what should one not do when arriving at the scene?
Well, initially, the principles is make sure that you are safe. For example, if it's an accident or something, or if there's some other danger, you should not become a second victim. So you need to make sure that the scene or wherever the problem is safe for you to approach. Then when you approach the patient, I would like to divide it into two groups, whether there's any kind of trauma, accident, or there is no trauma, there is no accident. In cases where there is no trauma or accident, you approach the patient and try and talk to them and check if they're responding. If they're not responding, you just put them on their left hand side. So they should not be lying on their back, they should not be lying on their tummy, but they should be lying on their left hand side, and you need to go and get help. In the cases of trauma, you're not supposed to move them, so they should actually be left in the position they are. You can check the response and try and get an ambulance or medical help as soon as possible.
So, doctor, how to prioritize the treatment of casualties and which order must one follow?
Um, that is slightly difficult for the layperson who has not been trained. So, if you had first aid training, because every emergency, the priorities would change, and that would depend on which emergency you're dealing with. In a general way, what your priorities would be is to make sure that their breathing or their mouth is not obstructed. So, if they're lying on their face or something, you move them on their left hand side, like I mentioned earlier, and ask for expert help. If you are first aid trained, then the priorities can be defined.
How long would you check to see if any unconscious casualty is breathing normally or no?
If someone you're trying to speak to, or you feel that they're unconscious, you can look for their chest, whether that is moving up or down. You may check if there's any air coming out of their mouth. This should be done for a maximum of 5 to 10 seconds. If you feel there is no breath, or they are taking an occasional breath but not breathing normally, regularly, you need to call for help soon or immediately.
If I am alone and a first aider and have an unconscious or non-breathing adult, what should one do first?
So this is a non-trauma situation where there is no accident, there is no injury, and you're alone and you found someone, you've tried to talk to them and they are not responding. You would put them on the left lateral position and see if there's any breathing. If there is no breathing, you need to start chest compressions. But in this scenario, because you're alone, you need to call for help, because you alone will not be able to continue what is required. If you're of course trained in first aid, you would start chest compressions, and you can start even giving mouth to mouth breathing if you are trained to do that. In either scenario, whether you're trained or you're untrained, calling for help as soon as possible is critical. So if you have a mobile phone, you can put it on speakerphone and dial the number, and while you're talking to them, you can give chest compressions. If you're not comfortable doing that, your first priority now actually is to call for help. It could be just somebody across that you can see, or it could be an ambulance. Because as soon as you have 2-3 people, then you can do the chest compressions, and the second person could be calling for an ambulance or for a doctor.
Doctor, can you also tell what is the first aid kit?
First aid kit, I think that is a very important thing, is to actually have a first aid kit. And it just doesn't mean what are the contents, but actually someone needs to be responsible for it so that it is kept up to date. What I mean is, it might have been opened for a particular emergency, and then whatever items are used, they need to be replaced. I'll talk about medications as well, but if there are any medicines in it, then they need to be not expired, and how many doses should be there, that should be maintained. A simple first aid kit in the house would be for cuts and bleeding, where you would have bandages, you would have some kind of ointment, and gauze, what the surgical gauze as we call it. So if there's any bleeding, you can put pressure on it. You can keep a sling or some sort of a splint. So if there's a fracture, you can apply that so that that part of the body is not moving. When it comes to medications, of course, the simple medications for pain relief and vomiting can be kept in that. When it comes to special medications for heart or for stroke, you could have the aspirin, but strongly recommend that you do not give the aspirin on your own unless you have spoken to someone and discussed the scenario. And if the medical professional has advised you, then you might give aspirin. Now coming on to a more specific kit. So if there are heart patients with heart disease, or patients with asthma, or patients with diabetes in your community, and you're keeping a kit for them, then of course, whatever are the emergency medications for the heart disease, for the asthma, the inhalers, and so on, and you would keep that, but that would be very specific to that area. Similarly, there's an allergy medications. So if somebody is known to have particular allergies, then there are medications for that which should be kept in the kit.
Doctor, the last question is, how can one get first aid training, and from where, and is there any eligibility for them?
Eligibility would be wanting to do it, is how I put it, because there's nothing else. Obviously, starting from, I guess, 8th standard, 9th standard students, so anybody who's 14-15 years onwards who wants to get trained can be trained. Usually it's a basic life support course which includes first aid as well, and it can be anything from 2 to 3 hours. It is run by various organizations, including Apollo has its course as well. Now with the COVID environment, it is available online as well. By watching videos, but certainly you need to be supervised and you need to be signed off. These courses teach you specific maneuvers in specific scenarios, what you're supposed to do. The other important part of it needs to be refreshed. So every 6 months, you need to refresh yourself, because you may not come across an emergency for the next year or two. So what you have learned maybe a couple of years ago, you may not fully remember. Plus there are updates. So there are frequent updates on which emergencies, how they're supposed to be managed. And the good example would be a stroke, where up to a couple of years ago, we had a medicine that was there to break the clot. But now there is even further similar treatment available, like for a heart attack, which is angioplasty, that is available for stroke, but it's within a time window. So if you're doing regular refresher courses, then you would be up to date with that, and you would know how to respond best. And that could make all the difference for that person's long-term ability.
Thank you, Doctor, for joining this session.
Thank you.